Let me present the Korea parts of the major development and the current strategies in the Asian region. I may say the recent major developments in Korea are, firstly, Part 2 promotion in 2016, which came after we had held small-scale international races with Japan and Singapore between 2013 and 13 and 15. And secondly, the international Group 3 promotion of the Korea Cup and the Sprint. I will speak about the winding stories about the Group 3 status later in this presentation. Thirdly, the simulcast of the Korean races to overseas was started with Singapore in 2013. Since then, it has expanded year by year, and now Korean races are beamed to 12 countries. And as for the strategies, firstly, the Korean group race ratings have been set as a key performance indicator by the Korean government. So from 2020, Korean group race rating will be utilized for the quality control of Korean racing by the ministry. Secondly, the new race course, inclusive of a turf course, will be finally opened in 2023. We will see how Korean owners and the trainers adapt to tough horses, then we will plan the tough international races. Thirdly, the creation of the customer with the K events at the race course, especially in association with the international races. The survey revealed that the K-performance, K-pop, and the K-dance on International Race Day contributes to the image enhancement of racing. Different from most internationally developed racing countries, which have a long history of hosting international races, the inauguration of the Korea Cup and the necessary protocol arrangements were made under strict time constraints. It was like constructing a railway line while the train is already coming. And sometimes it became very close to being derailed. It was reported at the country profile session at the 35th Hong Kong Asian Racing Conference in 2014. The KRA had just started international races and planned to be promoted to Part 2. And Korea was indeed promoted to Part 2 with the 6 races listed in the Blue Book as of July 1st, 2016, after 3 years hosting of a small-scale international races between 2013 and 15. And it was also reported again at the International Movement of Horses Committee session at the Mumbai Asian Racing Conference in 2016 that Korea was in the middle of establishing the protocols for the inauguration of the Korea Cup and the Sprint. At that time, Korea had a protocol only with Japan and Singapore, and the protocol with the UAE had just established in December 2015. So the Korea-trained horses ran in the 2016 Dubai World Cup Carnival for the first time. Therefore, we had to rush to establish the protocol for the possible countries with Hong Kong, UK, and Ireland, and France within the first half of the 2016. And the first ever international races named after the country name was inaugurated in 2016 with high-quality runners from 7 overseas countries participating. There were many happenings in 2019. In February,
gates are back and they are racing now.
the Korean trained horse
Dolkong races by
second place getter in the 2018 Korea Cup, won the Colin handicap by the listed race by 9.5 lengths.
Over Edger, and Dolkong's going to cruise on by. Dolkong eased right down by Olivia Deleuze, jogs up by 7 lengths. Second in Edger, third across the line.
And his rating was elevated from 100 to 108. And a week later, the Dolkong ran third in the ARC Challenge Round 3, which is a Grade 1 race on Super Saturday. And 2019 Dubai World Cup winner Thunder Snow ran second. The margin between second and third Dolkong was on your neck. And his rating was elevated from 108 to 110, and he was invited to run in the Dubai World Cup. As we haven't experienced such an expensive declaration fee, I had a very hard time to persuade the owner to run in the Dubai World Cup, but he ran only 11th out of 12 runners. We had to admit that he was exhausted after running 5 times within 3 months without a break. In June, despite the short history of the Korean international races and the disadvantages of sand track, the Korea Cup and Sprint were promoted to grade 3. Korea explained to the ARF Exco and the Asia Pattern Committee how much we had been trying to promote Korea Cup and the Sprint and to control the quality of races according to their guidance. But unfortunately, 2 months later, there was the diplomatic crisis between Korea and Japan. And we were very much concerned that the announcement of Japanese entries was likely to trigger public anger onto the KRA. As the races in 2019 have the international Group 3 status for the first time, KRA strongly believed that rejecting a horse from a non-racing regions was and always is unacceptable. But we were being forced into an inevitable choice whether to anger the national authority and the local customers or our international partners. And we were very much reluctantly decided that we couldn't invite the Japanese horses. KRA informed this to the ARF and the APC, and they informed that the executive committee decided both races were not to be run as international Group 3 races in 2019. As a result of this decision, the KRA immediately informed the connections of all runners in both races that the international Group 3 status for 2019 had been removed. Especially the KRA asked for the Japanese connections understanding who entered their horses already. We also visited the JRA to ask their understanding. We spent about $20,000 to replace all the banners and the souvenirs without G3. And I'm told the original ones are now the collector's items. In the National Assembly audit in October 2019, the KRA was severely criticized by the Japanese, by the opposite party not accepting the Japanese entries. But if we made the other decision, the ruling party would have severely criticized us. Either way, we severely criticized. And the winners in both Korea Cup and the Sprint in 2019 were Korea-trained runners for the first time. And as an international racing manager, I was very much concerned about the meaning of these victories were undermined by the non-invitation of Japanese horses. Luckily, the winner of the Korea Sprint was already nominated for the Breeders' Cup, and I had another hard time to persuade the owner to run him in the Breeders' Cup, as it was the first time to send the Korea-trained horse to United States, and the conditions were not fully invitational.
They're all in line. We are ready for the start. They're off.
When Blue Chipper, the third out gate, jumped well and positioned second behind the front run all the way to the top of the straight, and ran third, beaten by 1 length by Omaha Beach.
Made his way up into third, but spun to run his runaway. Gerard Ortiz and spun to run the real deal of the dirt mile. They won it by 3.5 lengths. Omaha Beach was second, Blue Chipper was third.
And loud cheers from the grandstand didn't stop until we walked all the way to the top of the straight for sampling. And the first Korea-trained horse racing overseas rated around 100 in 2013. And in 2017, the first Dubai World Cup night runner in the Godolphin Mile was rated 106. And last year, the Dubai World Cup runner was rated 110. And this horse, Blue Chipper, rated around 112. I can say the 0.1% of Korea-trained horses among 3,000 registered horses are the group level runner. And the Blue Chipper was seriously considered to be invited to the Saudi international races next week, but he is still recovering from the shipping fever in Dubai. And his next target was the Godolphin Mile, but yesterday I got the diagnosis from the Dubai vet, and we most likely will not be able to make it the Godolphin Mile. The simulcast started in 2013 with Singapore, along with the onset of the international races in Korea. In 2014, the first European country, France, was added to the outbound simulcast countries. And 2015, Malaysia was added. 2016, Australia was added. And Hong Kong and Macau were added, along with the Hong Kong runners' participation in the Korean international races. And in 2017, United States was added. 18, New Zealand and Canada were added. 19, Spain, Ireland, and Chile was added. In 2020, we are planning to simulcast Korean races over 6 continents. So when Korea races are run, the 6 continents can watch our races. As we have experienced the significant turnover from countries where there are runners from, we strongly believe we should have quality races with quality horses from diverse countries. At the same time, I'm working to change the law, which currently does not allow its importation of the overseas races, even when there's a Korean runner in overseas race. The venue for the new race course was selected in 2010. But there have been long and winding stories as for why we have not been able to open it up. But I will not bore you with them here. But the development has resumed with the tough track being its centerpiece. As soon as we are getting confident about the performance of a Korea-trained horse on turf, the KRA will host tough international races. Tough international races in Korea would not be far away. And the survey revealed that the events such as K-pop and the K-dance on International Race Day contribute to the image enhancement effect of racing by over 75%. And we are planning out to unlock the Korea's potential internationally. I hope to see you even on a bigger stage, international bigger stage. Thank you very much.